Hello, it's October 10th, 2019 today, and here we have a 20-month-old Paulownia tomentosa, the biggest one. It look like it looks like it's kind of withering, and it's been like that for the past couple weeks. I guess after the night temperatures are a little bit lower, perhaps that's what happens. So like we've been seeing night temperatures of 10 degrees or less, even though it's like 16 degrees right now. And the growth this growing season is pretty nice, because as you can see, this tiny stem was growth from the last year's growing season, and this big one is growth from this year's growing season, and same with these two side trunks. So this looks like it's going to be a multi-trunked tree. This trunk here, it's going into an inconvenient location, so perhaps I'll cut it off, but this one and this one looks good. We'll see what happens with it next year. Now this is a Ailanthus altissima, as I mentioned before. Just grew there by itself by seed, so I'll leave it. This one I transplanted, I think it was in May or June. Kind of damaged the roots, so it didn't really experience good growth. Last year's stem for this one. And these two are this year's stems, but they didn't really grow that well. And then I have another Paulownia over here, which after I transplanted it in August, it was growing really well. But then I decided to transplant it. I stepped on a root and I cracked the root, and that was one of the biggest roots, and it only grew this one leaf after dropping all the other leaves. So it'll probably come back really well next year, but for now it's just one leaf. And it's autumn, so you can see there are berries on this Virginia creeper. Berries which feed birds over the winter. They're poisonous for humans. This is a bitternut hickory. No, bitternut. Oh, I think it is hickory or something, but I'll just let it grow there. Here's a pawpaw pup from a mature tree that I took from a park, and it seems to be surviving, not really thriving that well, but they do grow really slowly. This is a pawpaw seedling, so I've decided to plant 5 pawpaw trees in a row. Another seedling. This is a root sucker, and this one is a seedling as well. Now some bitternut here again, and pots with pawpaw in them. And oh, I just noticed that I had some jackfruit that I didn't bring in, and jackfruit are a tropical tree. They can survive in California and Florida. But it was 5 degrees Celsius a couple nights ago, and they survived, which is pretty good. I think as long as it doesn't freeze. Now, here's a mulberry which I transplanted in the incorrect way, so I had to prune it back and cut off the dying branches, but previously it was really a lot bigger. And they survive well, so it was okay. And out here in the pots, it's mostly pawpaw. And this is a mulberry I planted from mulberry seed. It hasn't gotten really huge or anything, but I think that's because I didn't give it a spot with a ton of light, a ton of sun, and it's in a small pot, so you know it'll be different if you give it better nutrients and such. And here's a black walnut fallen from the massive black walnut, 80 years old or more, that I have in my backyard. And there's another Paulownia, really big, doing well. And these are black walnut that I collected from my yard and my neighbor's yard. So there's a lot there, so I can either eat them, squirrels will get some, and I can plant them as well. Um, and these here are American chestnut. Now I don't think the seeds in them are really viable, but I put them there, and they seem to be protecting the black walnut from being stolen by the squirrels pretty well, because the squirrels will probably prick their paws and decide not to mess with the black walnut. And this red stuff is the dye from the black walnut. So once it's you step on it or you open it, the juices turn everything around it either black or orange or kind of like henna. So your fingers will turn that color as well. And here's another mulberry that I have in my backyard. And that's pretty much it. It's the beginning of autumn, and the trees are changing, just starting to change color here in southern Ontario. And it's time to harvest a lot of fruits and nuts, as you can see. And here's a Korean pine. This one is a lighter green because I think it gets more sun. And this one's a darker green because it's actually in a shadier spot. They were actually purchased at the same time. So it's interesting how that works out. Oh, and I have one more interesting tree which I think you should take a look at. It's Ginkgo biloba. So that's the biggest one I have there. It's pretty cool. The leaves are nice. They're a unique shape. And in Japan and China and Taiwan, they love ginkgo nuts, or the seeds roasted. Well, have a good October.